invocation by Henry, followed by the flag salute.
Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Lord, thank you for this fine day as we start another work week. Father, we ask for your guidance today. Keep us on your path of righteousness as our nation and our culture seems to be sinking into a swamp of uncleanliness and debauchery. You are our light. You are our guide. We follow you, Lord. Again, we thank you for the blessings that you bestow upon us. And I offer this prayer today in the name of your Son and our Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, administrative business, Dana.
Okay. I have the minutes of July 29 and the minutes of July 31.
Okay. We've had time to review those. Any questions? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the July 29th minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, moving second. All those in favor?
Aye.
July 31.
Make a motion to approve them as written.
Okay, move to approve the July 31st minutes as written. I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Change orders.
Change orders and supplements. So some of those will need signatures.
A lot of them here today. What goodness.
That's everyone's wake up check. Make sure everybody's still awake.
I was just trying to shut it off. It wasn't raining. It did it. It just rang.
At least you weren't in church. That's worse.
Why is it?
Personal experience.
Why is it
Usually
that
my husband.
some of these require signatures and some don't?
The ones that affect the tax roll that hasn't been generated yet, those supplements do not need,
Okay.
those are just things that are happening before we actually generate the tax roll.
Okay.
The ones that require signatures are on tax rolls that are already created and have been billed, so that's why,
Okay.
okay? I didn't make copies of these, but I can if you need them. The first thing is a change order on the transfer station, and that is to remove the seating. As you voted to do that when you were down doing your tour.
Yes.
But that's the official change order that needs to be approved by board action. And then the next one is the next pay estimate that is due.
Okay, this change order is in the amount of $3,400. Basically, on July 25th, 2019, a meeting took place at the transfer station and office building. The County Commission and Call Valley Engineering agreed with Nelson Fowles LLC has met the substantial completion mark of the project. A punch list was created with one item being removal, item number 5, seed and mulch. This item will be taken care of in Marion County at a later date. The removal of this item reduced the contract by the amount of $3,400. And then the next is a amount due to contractor, which is in the amount of $7,029.75 due to Nelson Fowles LLC on the original contract. So we need two.
Yes.
Okay, we'll need first to approve the change order reducing the contract by the amount of $3,400, and I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next is the contractor price sheet, which is the amount due contractor on the original contract, the amount of $7,029.75. I'll move to pay that.
I'll second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. This is the 5th.
Deidre asked me to let you know that because there are some new immunizations required for back to school this year, that the health department is going to stay open until 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 21.
August the 21st,
Yes.
and that is the hepatitis vaccination.
Isn't it meningitis? I think maybe, I'm not sure.
Okay. Anything else, Tina?
Well, the one thing that I did want to get an official action of the board on, you had discussed not billing the fire districts out for their payments for the radios for 2019, and we made a change to the budget not to show that income, but could you take that official action on that for me not to bill those out?
Okay, have we agreed then to make that payment for them?
Well, that's the way you asked me to prepare the budget, so I just wanted to make sure that that was your intent, and I need some sort of official action from the board on that, if that's your intent.
I didn't know if we had agreed on the total amount or a
Okay,
portion.
well, the amount I took out was 93,000
Right.
change, and that is the total amount due yet from the fire districts only. I did not take out the
From the
law
police.
enforcement. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do remember that, because I asked for 95, but you corrected me on that, so I'll make a motion that we go ahead and take that out and then not bill them for it.
Okay. It's been moved. I'll go ahead and second that. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Moving on is Lisa Reeder here?
Yes.
9:15. Morning, Lisa.
How are you? I just got a couple little items that came across this. I should say I got your input on it. At my department head meeting, you had asked about flood relief.
Right.
And so I visited with the state, visited with Randy Frank. At the time, he was applying to get the assistance, and that did come through. So what I brought up, there's two different things we can do. One is actually gonna be up to you guys as commissioners, and then the other one will be a meeting that taxpayers can attend to get like basically a low interest loan.
Right.
That's nothing that we'll do with our office, but I thought
That's through SDA.
Yes, correct. But I attached what I had from Randy for you guys, so you can pass the word if you want. But it's gonna be distributed to all offices or however. So, okay, so what would affect us is the tax relief for homesteads destroyed or substantially destroyed. What that basically is, and the application is the top form that I gave you. And then the determination from you will be the second form that I gave you. So these will be available, each office can have a copy of that. But they'll have to fill it out. We will have to give them the current value. It only will apply to their home only, not outbuildings, nothing else, not land, nothing. And it'll be for 2019. And so we'll look at their value. They will have to have a quote from either a licensed contractor or an insurance company. It'll have to be at least 50% damage to qualify for the tax relief on just their home only. So it's not like it's gonna be affecting their whole entire parcel, but that's the best that we ourselves can do.
Okay.
Now, if there's a lot of damage in January 1, 2020 that they haven't fixed, that's when they can talk to my office and we can adjust value then. This won't have anything to do with a value. This is strictly a tax relief. So, looking at a couple different things there it'll be kind of up to you guys. It tells on the form, once we say, yes, they qualify based upon their quotes, then it's up to you guys what you want to do from there. So,
You mean as far as
a tax.
the tax relief, what percentage of the tax
Yes.
bill we would provide
Yes,
relief on?
yes, and that would be up to you guys to make a decision. You know, you'll have obviously a case by case coming in, but, I mean, that might be something you'll wanna line out ahead of time of getting applications, so you kind of are on the same, treat everybody kind of the same based upon what's going on. So, but they do have to have qualifications to even be eligible for it.
Do you or Randy have any type of feel for, how many we might be looking at, just ballpark?
We have only had 2 actually ask our office for help or direction. That's all we've had so far, are 2 people. I'm sure Randy's had a lot, and I'm sure people will sign up for the loan. I don't know what Randy's all heard though.
Yeah,
I mean, I know.
I'm just thinking ahead, if
Yes.
we do have, like you said, if they're coming in, you just about need to have a set time on the agenda where you can bring those to us.
Exactly. Well, and the applications will probably be turned into Tina's office, because they'll actually have to go to you, then we can attach what the value would be, then it comes back to you, and then it goes back to the other offices. So it's gonna be a little bit of a process to take care of. No big deal, but
Okay.
just,
Well, as you get a feel for what you think may come in, you may, like say, you might want to just have a regular spot on the agenda until we,
and I don't mind, I mean, once we start getting ones coming in, I can certainly give you a 2-week update or something like that, just so you
because I
kinda.
mean, I don't know how else to handle it other than write it when we're all together.
And that's no problem. And like I said, we haven't officially had, this just came out, I wanted to tell you guys before we
Sure.
would start distributing anything. Just so you guys knew, it's kind of it's in your ballpark of how you want to handle it, but we can get the information for you. So that's it.
As long as you can get it to us in a group setting, we'll have to act on it.
Yes. And then the other thing, and like I said, this really has nothing to do with me, but the SBA loan, just so word does get out, it looks like it starts Tuesday, August 6th, and goes for about a week, a little over a week, so, just so y'all know that too. Like I said, that doesn't have anything to do with me, but I had the information.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how that information gets out to the public. They did, you know, SBA met with individuals and business owners and such, but I don't know what at that meeting, if they told them a set time or anything.
Randy had said to me that he was physically gonna go out and try to reach as many people as he
Okay.
could, even if
We
he just
also-
puts things on the doors.
We also posted on the county website, posted on social media, and shared it with the news media. The newspapers have already, I know Marion County Record already put something out on Facebook about
It's
it.
not FDA, it's Small Business Association.
Yeah,
That's what
and
she's
that's-
talking
yeah,
about.
Yes, that's the one,
Yeah,
yes.
so we have been working to try to get that out in the public, so.
And that's anybody that, I mean, like I said, we've only had 2 officially come in and talk to us, and we've said, there's definitely things in the works, but now that we know the dates and everything, that's kind of why I thought I'll just go ahead and mention it, that way it's more coverage. Okay, so that's it on that. Do you have any questions, except for just kind of reporting back as things come in?
Yeah, report
Okay.
back as you get a feel for
Okay.
what's going to
That's-
transpire.
That's no problem. Then the next little packet that I brought in is an application for neighborhood revitalization. It's kind of the same situation we had before. They are new to the county. They moved a house into Burns. They do have their building permit. They were not aware at the time that they moved everything in that there was neighborhood revitalization available. And so they've already got it in, the project already started, so I just need you guys to either say, yes, it can qualify, which by the standards it would, except for obviously being late, or, you know, if you choose not to, but I just have to have a yes or no from you guys to be able to put that on.
Because, you know, that's not something you really think about a lot when you're in the process. of
No.
doing that.
And they were very nice, they were just like, we had no idea the county offered that, so, I mean, I recommend allowing, since we've allowed in the past, but that's your call. Yep.
We need official board action on that, so to go outside the parameters of the program, so.
Okay.
Well, I would certainly make a motion to go ahead and approve their application for that revitalization program.
Okay, I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Go ahead.
That's it.
How do we get, you know, is there a better way of informing the public about that program?
Honestly, we usually do when we get the building permit, but I guess between the weather, the rain, the issues that they had, by the time they got the building permit and got it in, then they tried to get it here as fast as possible, so we usually, when we get a building permit, we make sure
Yeah.
that it is known. And I think that also is out
As
on
long
our
as the departments are,
website.
all the employees are informed, so that kind of stuff doesn't slip by.
Yes, yeah.
For permits.
Nikki is actually the one that handles all of the processing of it, and she does a great job with it, trying to keep everybody on top of it and gets their information so they stay in line.
Okay.
Very good.
Great.
All right.
Thank you guys, appreciate your time.
Okay, we're a little bit ahead of time, but Scott is here. Scott is here.
Okay, squeeze through here.
Good morning.
Morning, Scott.
How you all?
Good.
Okay. Okie dokie. Well, the reason I'm here, I missed last Wednesday, I believe it was, and I was just kind of circling back to see if there's any, I mean, it's getting published, but I was circling back to see if you had any questions. You have a complete budget, I believe, before you today. And I'm glad to answer any questions. If you had any other questions that have come up that you know of. The mill levy was set at the same amount, same dollars, kind of like we left it. And one thing that was discussed, I believe, when we talked about it last Wednesday, was about the, it'd be on page 7D, it was the transfers, the road and bridge transfers on the 7 mil portion, so it'd be the top of the page on 7D. And maybe one more page.
I'm comparing to, I did
Under,
go.
under the general fund,
I did
right?
go
General
through
fund,
all
yeah.
of this, yes.
Mhm.
So it's at the top of the page, you're saying?
Yeah, and that middle column, you'll see that it's a 0. And so that roughly 900,000 will not be made to the capital improvement fund in this year, right now. And that's to help with the general fund's cash balance.
Right.
And if you'll go back one page, you'll see, no, actually, it's 2 pages, 3 pages, sorry. There's way in the blank. I just wanted to show you, it's on 7A, it's the cash balances. So if you look at the cash balance over in the 2020 column.
Which
after
page
making-
you on?
On page 7A there, where the levy's at. Right above it there, there's a number, it's 1,675,000. That is the cash balance in 2020.
It's page 17 of your packet on your computer.
So actually, when Tina presented it on Thursday, I'm sorry, Wednesday, it would have only been $717, sorry, 717,000, but now with that extra
The
nine.
extra
Now
900,000,
we're gonna
that's
be up
what.
to 16,
Yeah,
75,
1,600,000.
yes,
Mhm.
okay.
And if you compare that to the end of 18, first column there, it's 1,659,000. So that gets us back to where kind of the cash balance has been. And if you remember on that 10-year history we looked at, last Monday, I think it was maybe, that 1.6 to 1.7 million is kind of where the general fund has been cash balance wise for the last 10 years, trying to keep it steady there. So to do that, that's the one point I think that I want to make sure that everybody understood that.
Right.
Mhm.
I was gonna ask why it was,
Yeah.
there was a couple differences throughout the whole budget. I seen that you had moved some things around, and I was gonna ask
Okay.
just what happened.
Yeah,
But that's
sure.
all.
No, that's why I'm here.
Well, that's what Tina said in her email, that's what we,
You'll notice the cash balances in almost every fund will be a little bit different than what they were on Wednesday. And that's because, as Scott had mentioned before, the neighborhood revitalization had to be readjusted after we did that again. So that's the main reason for all those changes.
Okay. Any other questions you might have?
so, if we say no, then you're gonna be way early.
Hey, that's no problem. You know what? I was supposed to be I just got a call. I was supposed to be at Osage County at the same time.
Oh. You're not
I
gonna be
must not
there.
got that on my calendar, so anyway.
Ah, you're not supposed to do stuff like that.
I know, it's terrible.
Yes, it is. I do have one or two questions. I'll just
Sure.
move to the
Fire away.
biggies, that we find them.
Okay.
To the ones that I really was stunned on or didn't have a question on.
Mhm.
This is what we just discussed right there. Oh, boy. That's just 20,000, that doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah, most of
And
it
most
like-
of that was from the revitalization.
That's right,
deal, So
yeah.
that's where that.
What you have to do is you have to
Yeah.
go back in and you have to, when that amount changes because of the levy in each fund, that's how it's allocated, is based on levy. So when we change levies in each of those funds, you gotta go back in, that changes, then you gotta change, to get back to the same mill levy, you gotta adjust that difference that changed in neighborhood revitalization in the levy, so you're back to the same mill levy word for your stuff. It's kind of a circle. So that's why we always wait till the very end to adjust the neighborhood revitalization.
That's good, I see. So I did notice that just in some of the line items, there were also some changes. For example, I'm on 9B, and this is road and bridge.
9B?
Yeah, 9B, road and bridge. And I noticed, of course, they requested 150, but we kept it at the current level of 140, which is cool. And then also I noticed down a little bit further, about
Oops.
2/4 of the way down, so 300 was requested. It was requested, we kept it down at 75. And so when we kept it down, that was all to make it stay at the same level, right?
Well,
See the 300,000
You're talking
and then
about
above the
commodities?
75,000 in
step back
contractual.
here.
In contractual.
in contractual
The
under.
75, and of course, they were requesting 100.
Which-
But we have it
Which,
at the
which
same
department,
level.
which department are you talking about?
Road and Bridge.
I know,
No,
but which
which
section?
division here?
Right here,
Maintenance shop, okay, maintenance shop?
yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, the 75, they requested 100, but we kept it down to
okay.
75.
The reason, yes.
Yeah.
The reason being is because if you go up the middle column up here to gravel, and we've talked about this many a time, at 1.6 million, you see
Yes,
that
I do
commodities?
see it, yes.
That number in the original budget was 750.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
in last
Well,
year's 2019 budget.
Yes.
Because of where we're at on gravel,
Mhm.
that alone, we had to go through all those line items in both the 19 column and the 2020 column to get that number filled in. Because it was it's like double.
Yeah.
You know, and so to get that to work, that's why you couldn't increase it to the 100, like the one you're asking about, the $100,000.
Right.
You couldn't
Right.
increase it because we had to go through and make sure all those line items kind of stayed the course because that 1.6
We had to
million.
stay static on everything else.
Yeah, so it looks to me like it was pretty tight. If you
Oh,
keep it
yeah.
at the mill levy as it is, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room for anything, am I
That's
right?
right. Yeah, because like I've told you, if the levy locks at the same amount
Yes,
and the dollars have to stay at that same amount, then what ends up happening is cash balance has to be adjusted. Or a line item, like you have to cut a service or cut an increase in some line, you have to go in and cut those to make that 1.6 million workable. And it may be 1.5, it may not be 1.6, but you gotta be conservative enough that if we get down in November, we wanna have enough in that middle column to carry us through till 12/31.
Right.
right. And then on 12, I noticed too, and I see this, but the medical premiums had to increase that considerably. Whereas in the third column, we were at 807,000, and the projected or the proposed for 2020, or 2020 is gonna be 940,000, which is a $133,000 increase.
Okay, so this was a question I'd asked Tina when I reviewed it, when I was gone. I mean, I reviewed all this when we were talking back and forth. But see, like here's actual 818.
That was the other year.
Okay,
yes.
so I said, 807, is that really right? Because health insurance, but you went back and.
Well, and actually, it should, when Ashley went back and did another estimate, it looks like it's gonna be closer to 824 for actual.
Okay, so it's about the same as last year, okay, 818, the middle one should be 824. We've always in the past built somewhere between a 15 and a 30% increase in that one line item, just to keep that fund from running out of money. And because we don't know, like, I think I told you a story the other day, a school district that we were talking to the other day, their single rate went up $800 a person, just for the single.
Oh, no, I'm not disputing
Yeah,
that.
so
I
we're
know.
trying to.
faced with it here too at the Blue
Yeah,
Cross,
we're
they
just,
just, they're
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So we're just trying to make sure, that's why there's such a difference between the 818, 807, and now maybe it's 824, and the 940. There's an extra built in there just to,
The next 100,000.
just in
Shop
case.
is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an extra
Big shop.
$100,000 increase on that, that's.
And this fund, if you look, I think the 71,911, that's cash, I can't see.
Yeah.
Okay, so you remember, I'm doing this off the top of my head, if you remember, I think your monthly expenditures are about 138,000 in the employee benefit fund. Look at the cash balance over there,
Yeah.
71,911.
Yeah, not even,
Okay.
not even 1 month.
1 month, okay? So we're not, because if you look, 154 is 1 month, 201 is a little bit over, about a month and a half, and then we got 71 over there, even with that 940 built into insurance.
Yeah, I got that, and this is very important, especially with all the employees that we have, we'll keep adding to them. And then I was also noticing, if you go up to the top of that screen a little bit, on the, when you start paying, when you start paying Social Security and all that other type of stuff, those are fixed numbers.
That's right.
So when you
That's right.
hire somebody, the 6.2 per
That's right.
employee before, or the 12.4 to the employer, you can't change those. So they also really increase.
Yeah, I don't know the
expenses.
number, I haven't done the calculation, but it's probably like at least 25%. When you
Yeah.
hire somebody, there's a 25%,
Taxes
you know,
and
for
stuff.
employee
Yes.
benefits,
Right.
social security.
And on
healthcare.
Wednesday, we
Yeah.
did talk, since you weren't here, Scott, we did talk about that has a very low cash balance. And we talked about, by increasing the levy or the cash balance in the general fund and talked about the potential for some of the expenses from this fund. You know, they may have to be paid out of the general fund.
That's
So
right.
we talked about that a little bit on Wednesday.
That's why
Well,
the
and-
general was so important to us.
That's right,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I noticed that those increases, and I say we've been hiring quite a few people, and so I see how they are,
Sure.
need to be watched.
Yeah,
actually.
that, of any fund that I've worked with on the counties is employee benefit funds, one that always makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a
Because
future
it can
year.
It can change just like that, I mean, it's crazy.
In a
Yeah.
future year, we
Okay.
need to probably raise the levy on that fund. And if we can't raise the levy overall, that means another fund's levy will have to be reduced.
Yeah. So then I want to ask one final question. I think
Yeah,
this is
sure.
another biggie that I had, which in my mind was a biggie. And that is the capital improvement fund.
Yeah,
Okay, and this one right here, and I will tell you that it does confuse me a lot. Because
Okay.
I was going back several years,
okay.
and I was, under, excuse me, under the impression that we had considerably more money years back in that fund.
Which page you on?
And, 19. And,
It's on page 35 in your
so,
packet.
I'm wondering, is there any way to determine what happened to some of these
Sure,
dollars and stuff over the years? Because
sure.
I'm
That
seeing.
that one's pretty easy to explain,
Okay, good.
because I'm trying to find it here. The 10-year, you got your 10-year cash, you got your 10-year sheet that Tina did?
I do somewhere in my stuff here. This is all budget
Maybe she
stuff
has
here.
it here, she can pull it up, I'm not sure.
I'll try.
Try to
Was
find
it
it.
May or March?
But this is something we talked about the last time I was here. Because what you can see on that one, you start over in 2008, I think the first year she's got on that sheet. And you
Okay.
just follow that across to 2000.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember where it is.
No problem. I'm gonna see here, I think I had it, but I don't have it on my fingertips. But anyway, okay, so
Well,
here's the
probably
here's the
look for it.
basics of it, here's what happens, okay?
Okay.
So let's just say we start, and I can't remember these years exactly off the top of my head, but 2011 was one I know, 2016 or 17. So what happens is, those transfers are made from the general fund into that fund.
Right.
And it's for roads.
Yes.
Okay? So let's just say we transfer in 1.4 million for 3 years. Okay, so that'd be 1.4 million, that'd be 2.8 million, and then you'd have another 1.4 on top of that would be 4.2 million. Okay, so in the third year, you have 4.2 million in that fund. Road project comes along. And that's what happens in every one of those where the balance just goes like that, because what was the last, I don't know, some of those road projects are $3 million.
Yes.
So you might go from 4.2 million down to 1.2 million, and then it starts over again. That 1.4 million is transferred back in for 3 years or 4, and then you have another road project. And like this $7 million, the bid was on that, I don't remember what it was, Nighthawk, one of those.
Yeah, 7.5.
$7.5 million, that would drain it. You see what I'm saying?
But most of the time, we don't take all the money out of that fund, we finance. And so true, we are making payments, but you're not
We-
just
For road
punting
projects usually.
the whole project, because like on the 330 of the Camper Road.
Or the
that's
temp,
financed.
yes. Mhm. Yep,
We don't,
that was
not
the
since I've
thing.
been here anyway, we usually finance or take out bonds or whatever.
Right, and it's only done about every 3 or 4 years that you use that money, but that's
Mhm.
that's where those dips are, is when you decide to use that money, and that's what takes it down. Or if you get, perfect example is this year, 19 is tight in the general fund, so we decide not to put in $900,000. So all of a sudden, that capital improvement fund does not go up
Right.
by $900,000. It stays over in the general fund to help fund other operations of the county. So next year, when we get ready to do the budget, you'll see that you go, wow, why didn't the capital improvement fund go up more than that? Well, in 19 here, we didn't transfer almost $1 million just to help out with other cash balances. The capital improvement fund only works off of transfers. There's no taxes tied to it. I mean, they're tied in another fund, but there's no taxes tied to that capital improvement fund there. It's just by transfer from general fund, and then expenditures are for road fund. You know, I think in the past, we might have used for 911, the road signs. I mean, there were some times when we maybe didn't have enough money to do it over here, and there's something to do with roads, but it still was a road expenditure. But if you find that cash sheet, you can follow it, because every time it dips, that's usually a road project. You could go back and.
I'd be interested to go back and see what the project was
Mhm.
and how we financed it or
Sure.
spent the money or
Sure.
whatever, because I do get a lot of questions on that.
Sure. Oh, yeah, roads are
Because a
big
couple of years
questions.
ago, I know we were pretty healthy.
Yeah.
And for some reason, and I started getting the quarterly sheets on.
Okay, here it is, right here.
I'm sorry, I don't have the years showing.
That's
I
okay.
need to freeze that. so you
Just
can
help
see.
me out. I can kind of help me out.
2018.
18
Yeah.
to 8? Is it down to
Yes.
8? Okay,
Or maybe a little bit further.
that's fine.
On
So
here.
let's just start here. First one is 18, okay?
Mhm.
So we're at 3.866. In 19, we're not gonna transfer in about $1 million, okay?
Okay.
So that balance is not gonna change a lot,
No.
okay? There's a little bit's gonna go
Yeah,
into
that's
it.
what's right on the sheet, the 3,860,000.
That's right, yep. And then it goes over.
Yes.
This number right here
Right.
is gonna be there's gonna be that 900,000 is not gonna come in this year,
Right.
Okay.
okay? So if you go back, you can see how it went up about 1.1 million from 17. And then in 17 is when you had, what road was it?
330th.
330th you spent, so you went from 5,110,000 down to 2,778,000. So that was 330th that you spent on that.
That's west of Highway 15,
Yeah, west of
right?
Highway 15
Am I right?
project
Yep.
at 8 miles.
I don't know roads,
Okay.
sorry, but I
Yeah.
know it's the
Over to
road project
Person
you
County
guys.
line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
8,
It's over
9
to the
miles.
Person County line.
15 to
Right.
McPherson
Okay,
County.
Right.
Does it
And that-
help? Does it help if we click the expenditures tab instead? Because I've got it tracked by cash balances and expenditures.
Let's just do this
Do the
first.
cash
okay?
first,
Because I'm
okay.
just showing how the cash changes.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the 4 million, see there's another 1.1 million increase, that was the transfers from
Right.
general fund.
Right.
Go back, look, another million,
Mhm.
okay? And then back 2.5, but then right before that, we must not have transferred as much in that year, but look, it dropped from 3.866, where it actually is right now
Almost
almost.
exactly,
About
yes.
exactly. It dropped to 1.4, so there was another, I don't know what that
That
road
was 2012.
Yep. So I don't know what road that was.
I don't know.
We'll have to look.
But that's what happens typically, is you'll pay one road like that. Like, if I remember right, 330th had to have a lot of base work done. That's why it cost quite a bit, that 8 miles. And it was deteriorated, and so when you do base work, it's a lot more expensive.
So over the years, we have already gone down considerably.
Yeah.
We were down, the lowest one that gee, that's.
Well, the way that-
1,000, but 1,611,000, we have been down that far already.
Well, the way that it works though is usually it's a savings fund. So
Right.
you put money in, you put money in, you put money in until you have enough money in there to do a big project. And then typically we have spent that out of that fund. That's what it was created for.
Sure.
And so then your balance is low and then you have to build it again. So
Got it.
In my best my memory, in the times I've here with roads, the only time we financed would have been in the 2001 issue. That time we did the bond issue, maxed out the bond issue, and then we did the Tampa Road. And I can't remember having a bond issue or debt on any other road project. So it's only those two. So typically, when that 2001 one was set up back then, that's when we set this capital improvement fund up, that those transfers would go in there. And originally it was set up that there'd be a 5-year window. And so as that 2-inch overlay on all those 48 miles was done, and we would then, in those next 5 years, 5 to 7, we would try to reschedule where that 2-inch overlay went back, and so the transfers from the general fund would cover those 2-inch overlays over the next 5 to 7 years, and you would just keep those roads going. Well, you know how things are. I mean, just like this is a perfect understanding. 1.6 million goes to gravel roads, okay?
Right.
You have those things like that that pop up, and you hope you have enough cash in different places to cover those. It's just like at home, you know, sometimes things pop up. How are we gonna pay for that? And so that's this year's a good example. We had to double the gravel budget, That's gonna probably put a damper on some of the other areas of the budget, but at least we had cash to cover it, you know, to be able to do it. That capital improvement fund is just one of those, all it is just money going in to the point you have enough money to do a road, and then you spend it.
And what
Right.
it was important was that capital improvement fund does have enough in it to where we can at least plan.
Yeah.
Plan for an improvement and be able to do what, you know, if we're gonna do a 3-year phase project or something like that, or an Indigo type deal where you got 13 miles or whatever that is.
Sure.
Those were the questions that I had.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and I appreciate you taking the time to explain it to me.
Not a problem.
The
Glad to do.
the big issue will be down the road where we need to make those transfers and be able to.
Well, that's the thing, when you lock the dollars, okay, and maybe it's not quite lock the dollars, but when you increase 1.5% on a county budget, and CPI is maybe, I don't know, I still haven't figured that out. Townships get a 2.1 increase, county and cities get a 1.5 on CPI, okay? Why they're different, I don't know. But anyway, when you get that 241,000 that gets added to your tax lid each year for consumer price index is basically what it's for, okay? And that's all you get added, you know, that little 40 we're talking about, but that really is what you get added. Then it locks it in, and that cash, that's why when you start spending more than the consumer price index, the cash starts going, and you can see it with the gravel road this year. That's gonna be a hard one on the road and bridge budget. You know, I mean, we could do it, but if that happened again, and FEMA doesn't reimburse a lot of that 1.6 million, then we have to eat it. That's gonna be challenging, yeah. And then you throw the employee benefit funds on top of that with less than 1 month cash balance of 71,000 when the 138 is the monthly charge. Can't do that very long, you know?
Right,
Yep.
right, okay. Thank you very much for that, Scott.
Hopefully I didn't mess up the
Appreciate it.
camera by standing up there.
Not at all.
Okay, any other questions?
No, you answered my questions.
Appreciate-
Thank you.
Appreciate all your hard work.
No problem. Tina did a lot of work on this, and I couldn't get it done without her. And Lauren and the others at the office have helped put this together, so,
Well, we're blessed.
yes,
We'll have to give her a portion, huh?
that's right. Okay, I'm gonna go now call Osage County and see if I can work that out.
Okay, thank you. Have a good one.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Squeeze through here.
Okay, we are actually ahead of schedule.
He's out there, I'll Bryce out there.
We don't have road and bridge scheduled in until 10:15. What do you think, Diane? Should we take a break?
That's your call. I have no preference.
Yeah. I don't know, I hate to move up road and bridge too far. Why don't we take a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at 10 o'clock. And if Bryce is here, we'll get started with him then. We reconvene. Bryce?
Sorry, I forgot to look for him.
I'm dual purposing.
Sorry, I guess I should have called him during the break. I thought somebody said he was already up.
He was
out
here
there.
earlier, I
Oh,
saw
okay.
him, that's why I thought maybe he's out.
All right, well, we're gonna call him.
Yeah, it was standing.
Oh, okay. So will they have like special activities and stuff for you guys to do?
It'll mostly be the college activities that we'll do, but they have special stuff planned. Yeah, they have I think they have day trips on the weekends and stuff. But
That'd be neat.
and they have a robotics team. That's just for us. I don't know if I'll do it. It just depends on how it goes. But I think they got second at like a statewide competition last year. And one kid placed in the top 3 at Hack Dallas last year.
What is that for?
It's like computer science. I don't know anything about that.
I think it's exciting that you're doing that. That's neat. I turned
Just
mine off.
asked for something to be on the agenda tomorrow, it's not there, so.
What's that?
The UTVs, the side-by-sides in Hillsborough. Since Marion's doing it, County Lake's doing it. Hillsborough has yet to step up to it.
UTV?
Oh, OHVs.
Well, they used
Or-
to have mowers.
Yeah, they still, right?
Morning. I thought Scott would be windy today and carry on a little.
He has 2 places to be at the same time.
Did he? Gotcha.
Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
All right. First thing, I have a salary change for signature.
This is for, under the special bridge, Fred Philpott. 1-year raise as equipment operator 1 from 2310 to 2356.
Obviously up and down week for us. Yeah. Starting out with losing Vicky to a broken leg. Yeah. Losing Vicky to a broken leg. She made it back on Thursday, so obviously a little short staff. Guys, we're in pretty good shape with that. Well, we'll go down and rebuild Morning Star down Blue Stream south of 50 down to Morning Star. Looks absolutely fantastic. They love it. Neighbors love it. Adjoining landowners love it. And then it rained Thursday night. We got the water on top, or we got the rock on top of it, and obviously we need to go back and do more, but it's looking really, really good. Well, then Friday comes along, and here comes more rain. Between 3 inches of Durham, 7 inches of Tampa, Hillsborough 4 inches, you name it, here, there, and everywhere else. I thought we had a very responsive deployment, as well as right after lunch we started taking the signs down. The water come up pretty fast, went down pretty fast, but we still have issues with water over the roads, and I mean, not anymore, but I mean, they've washed off rock and debris and stuff like that again. So then right after lunch, got a call. We had a bridge collapse on 280th, pretty close to Vista. We had done a lot of temporary repairs, I guess, in the past anyway. It finally collapsed. So we went out there, and Jason, Fred, Jesse, Smith, Jeff, Troy, and Adam spent all afternoon out there. We knocked down what was left of the bridge, put a pipe in there, and then got some rock, basically to get them back into their house up there, because they have about 2 miles of dirt to go around the other way. So I said it was kind of important to make sure to get them out of there in case of emergency or whatever else. So went in there and got that done. Obviously, it made the Patrick Combs Facebook account, so we do appreciate that people did know this, but got taken care of. I made a decision. We just hauled shot rock out of Berkey simply because it's a temporary fix. We wanted to get the thing open as soon as possible. We ended up hauling more material out of the south shop just to finish it off. They were out there until about 7:30. So got to figure out a more permanent structure to get back in and everything, but at least we got them in for emergency purposes. So we had actually got to the point where some of the guys were actually trimming trees. So like I said, we're gonna get to that point, but now for the next week or two, we're probably back to hauling rock and basically getting roads back in stuff. So anywhere, we had talked last week about the skid steer. I didn't really get any, I guess, information whether you want me to go ahead and try to get some bids for the skid steer, or
I thought you were going to.
well, that's why I didn't really get a yes or no. Or I mean, I can get bids. Talking with several of the people that have the skid steers, they think that our best choice would probably be to sell the existing skid steer we have outright by seal bid or however that may be. That way, that's just less for them to have to, or to deal with, and then we could take the money and not have to do it, because they're gonna take several $1,000s just to do the process and everything else. So, and then we obviously would get our government rate. So I'll start doing that. And actually, when I was talking to the case, he said, well, he said, I've got a machine in McPherson County. He said, I'll just bring it over and I'll let you try it out. So he brings the skid steer over with it's a 340 track machine. And of course, it shows up when everything happens with now, so we may or may not be able to use it anytime, but that's pretty common for those guys that want to do that. So we've got it there whether we get to use it or not, but it's there. Kind of question, I guess, talking to Tina, she didn't know either. We had the rural water district in Hillsborough wanted to know if it's okay to update an existing approved permit or whether we want to submit a new one. They changed the location. This is at Goldenrod and 140th, was it? And he didn't want it there, but they wanted to move it on 600 feet away. So I guess up to you guys, whichever way you want
An
to.
existing line, they want.
No, they want to put in a new one, but the permit was approved right there at the intersection, but they actually wanted it farther down the road. And he did send me a written statement adjustment or whatever else, so I don't know how that works with the county, how you want to proceed, because Tina said they've kind of never had this before,
So it's at 140th and Goldenrod?
Be southeast of Hillsborough.
Yep, 140th and Gold Road, near
Southwest.
the intersection, and they want to move it 596 feet east of Goldenrod and 140th.
So is that to hook up a new residence, or?
He didn't really say. It's through the rural water district, and that's just what the landowner wanted. So I don't know which one to do either way. So.
We've never dealt with that before.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we can do it either way. I just told him to submit this to us, and then we at least have this information, and we can just add or attach it to that permit, and just say this was the adjustment, or you want to do a whole new one.
And so who pays all for that?
That's totally on them.
It's totally on them.
Yeah, all they need to do is they need to let us know when they're going across the county right away for utilities or whatever else.
Yeah, because normally, for all of the boring and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
but we do approve that.
Yeah, just to make sure. And then the other thing is we need to keep that on file so that we know that whatever's done down there, they'll put markers up, at least we have an idea who owns it, and rural water district, stuff like that, so.
And professional people will do the job.
Do we have maps of the rural water district lines?
I don't know if we do, but I'm sure they do if we wanted to find them. And that's something we need to follow up with, is we really need to keep track of all this stuff. I
Yeah,
don't know if it has
because,
been.
all those utilities
Sure.
are that sort of.
And probably more than the rural water lines or the phone lines,
Right.
that are, a lot of them are fiber optic and stuff like that. So obviously, anytime you do work out there, you have to call DigSafe and let them know for sure, what the plan is, and they'll come out and mark it. So the problem is, and rural water district should be included, is a lot of your private, like your gas lines and stuff like that, are not marked. So anytime you're digging out there, you always have to worry about that too. So, and we try to work with whoever we can, but still.
So, do you see a problem with it? I mean, I don't see a problem with it. It doesn't cost us anything if they want to move it, and the water district is willing to do it. They got professional people doing the job.
Yeah.
Do you see a problem with it?
No, there's no problem with it. It's just a matter of the formality. We've approved the permit as of the intersection, but that's been like 6-8 weeks ago probably, that it's just a matter of whether you want a new permit to cover this, or we can just add this to it, put see amended page or something to that effect. And I honestly think that's the way to go. It's just less things that you guys have to worry
So
about.
instead of approving a new permit, we'd just be approving an extension.
Or just say that, yeah. So,
I guess either way would be just as effective.
yeah. As long as we have the information there, so.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll need to take formal action then to approve that extension.
Yeah, an amendment to an existing permit. So can you bring up that permit?
I
with
don't
the
have it with
change?
me, but I can definitely bring that next week.
Okay.
I mean, it's nothing
Yeah.
urgent. You know, he
Oh,
just-
okay, well,
Yeah,
why don't
actually,
you bring that, get us that permit number, then we can,
okay, because he called like 2-3 weeks ago and said they wanted to do that, and so he finally got it to me. so.
okay. All right.
Okay. We talked about crushed concrete in the past. I talked to Harvey County, and the issue there, he told me, he said, he says, I think it was still a good thing. They had a pile crushed for them, and he said it was prior to him getting there, that they hauled this out there and tried to incorporate it in the base. What they found out was they didn't take the steel out of it. So what happened was the steel worked its way to the top and caused a bad mess. He said it's very, very difficult to get through. He says we got it through, but he said he would not do it simply because of the PR that he got out of it. He says, I still think it's a good thing, but he says unless you know for sure all the steel's out of it, or they at least try to get all the steel out of it. I don't think anybody'd be guaranteed to get everything out of there, but he said that was just the big thing. He says the road turned out great once they got rid of that, but he said, yeah, between the flat tires and things like that, it wasn't good.
And that's the way it was presented just before, the steel wasn't gonna all come out.
Yeah, and he just said, he goes, I still think it's a good plan, but he said, obviously, and he said he wasn't out there when they were because it was sitting in his shop. And they hauled it out there, and he said, I didn't look at it, and when they incorporated, the guys didn't notice or pay attention, and so opposite that deal. I do have a call into Smith County also that has done quite a bit of it in the past, I guess, too, and he was not available this morning, but I will try to get back with him so we can discuss that. But
So we're still a little bit on limbo with the.
well, and I mean, that's the other thing. I talked to Jeff Blosser up in Morris County, and he said he would be all in favor of using that if he could get it to. He said they're like everybody else. They actually crushed their own hill gravel. He said we crushed it down to 2-inch minus, and they use it more for base, which I think that's kind of what they've done here is they've crushed it 2-inch minus, and it's there for base. But I mean, I'll get some more information from Smith County especially to see what. According to Norm Bowers, he said not other people had used it, but that's simply because they haven't had the opportunity to get a bunch of it. But anyway, I will follow up with that. Probably the other thing that's going to be extremely critical now is we originally lined up to do our chip seals this year. We were blade patching. We still have more blade patching to go. We've had to pull off a blade patching to get the trucks going to get these roads covered back up. We are getting to critical time to say, number one, are we going to do this with our own forces? The problem is we should be done with chip sealing no later than September 15th. That's kind of the unofficial time based on weather and temperatures and stuff like that. So as of right now, I don't know if, we're probably talking about 2 weeks for us to do this. So basically that leaves us 3 to 4 weeks to finish off blade patching and things like that, get the oil straightened out. We also have to contact oil because everybody else is in the same situation. They're pushing off their oil too. So we gotta make sure that we can still get the oil this year. So combined with all those there, I mean, I've got several options. Is number one, we can continue like we're doing now and hope we can get the chip seals done. I could go out and hire some private trucks to try to get the roads covered a little faster. I could go out and actually subcontract this chip seal outside also. While they're doing the chip seal that we have ready now, our guys can continue to blade patch and get stuff ready out in front of them. Or fourth is to not do the chip seals this year and wait to either do them next year or do more substantial stuff next year also.
So my question to you is, on the chip seal, I know last year we didn't do any or very little road preparation for the chip seal. We chip sealed right over top of everything. Are you doing some changes in that?
Oh yeah,
Because
well,
I know there's several roads up my way that are just horrible.
Yeah.
So the chip seal over top of them right now, I would think like last year would have been a waste.
Yes, well, and it still is, because, and to say that we're doing prep for this time, we're blade patching. I mean, especially like the Alney Road, Sunflower, stuff like that, because we're gonna try to chip seal those. Now, that also brings up the fact is, once we get to chip seal and we're done, we can still go back and blade patch, later on in the year, because it's not as critical, as temperature and critical as the chip seal. But to be honest with you, some of those roads that are up there, we'd almost just, I think we're probably getting to the point we can blade patch them and that's about it. But
We've got some roads that have been chip sealed in the last year or two that are flood damaged, especially on both sides of the road.
Sure.
That we're gonna have to blade patch them already.
Mhm. And the other thing that has really hurt us this year is with all the moisture. That's where all these things are falling apart. They get water in the base and it's like anything. You don't build a house unless you have a good foundation, where you can't build a road.
But how do you get water in the base unless you get holes and breaks up and cracks and then the water gets down? I mean, if you have a road that's what, 24, 25 feet, whatever.
Well, one of the things that you face is if your road is perfectly flat and smooth, the water will run off. However, it does absorb water. The problem is the road is never perfectly smooth. Even after you overlay it, you drive trucks down there, you end up with a little bit of rutting. Wherever that rutting is, the water goes into the base. It's like anything else. If you had substantial pavement, 6 to 8 inches out there, you wouldn't have near the problems. To say that we have pavement out there is a far cry. I mean, you're talking about an inch or two. So the other thing is, even if we're blade patching, you run heavy trucks, or we got to be careful hauling our trucks too, is going across there, that they'll break up too. So all we're doing is the blade patching is essentially doing a Band-Aid that we can cover up. Now, if you go back and seal it, you're going to be better, but you're still not going to prevent all moisture or whatever else. The other thing you face is freeze thaw in the wintertime. If you've got moisture in there, that'll throw the road all over the place too.
Well, going back to your original question, I guess my thought is the same as it was last year. When you find a road that is a mess, I think chip and seal is a waste,
It is.
and I wouldn't do it.
Right.
That's would be my thought.
I totally agree, and honestly, we're not planning on doing any roads that are that bad. One of the reasons why we're blade patching Alney is because they were going to try to do it last year and didn't get to it, and it is in bad shape.
And Quail up to 330th up to Quail is horrifying.
Yeah.
And that's one that we did not chip seal last year.
Sure.
And then, of course, they're all out to almost
Yeah.
out.
And-
77 was Quail Road.
Sure,
right
sure.
there.
And we found out that there are guys doing some work up there on the feedlot. We're hauling heavy trucks up there too.
Well, you're going to have that because that's what we hear. What we
Well,
do.
I know, but that's my point, is it tears up the roads even more. And that's the same thing as anything else, is we can go up there and blade patch them, but until we figure out what we're going to do for the permanent basis, and like I said, we're going through, a lot of blade patch material the way it is, but like I said, I wish I had a crystal ball between now and then that would tell me what the weather's gonna do and everything else. I mean, we were actually sitting pretty good. If we wouldn't have this flooding and stuff up there, I think we'd have had everything worked out to where, the way we were gonna do things was gonna work. We're looking probably $650,000 for us to do the chip sealing. If we were to contract that out, we'd probably push an $800,000. I mean, just rough guess, so $150,000 more to contract it out. But while the contractor's doing the chip seal, then we could be continuing with our own forces. Now, whatever the direct/indirect costs are and benefits of that compared to having a contractor do it, that's the other thing. Plus, with this flooding here, we're probably talking about another, $100,000 worth of rock hauled just to get covered back up. I mean, we've got culverts washed out again, and so.
Well, I know you've got several options there, and you're gonna have to find the most cost-effective ways, and like Diane said, there's some of them just not gonna be able to chip seal. But we're gonna have some priorities coming up, not this year, but next year too. I mean, you're looking at 190. That's a main thoroughfare.
Sure.
believe it was scheduled for a chip seal
It's supposed to be done next year.
next
Yep.
year, you know, and so some of the priorities, I don't feel like we can really keep moving them down the road more, too many years, just because of the traffic flow on
Sure,
it.
sure. And I've actually talked to several outside contractors to come in, and I show them around. I said, give me your input. I mean, just for that information. And so, gonna take that and see where it comes with it. But it comes down to the fact is that these chip and sealed roads or prime roads, whatever else, basically glorified gravel roads. You know, that's essentially what they are. Is that they're really taking the beat. And like I said, I wish I could foresee the next 4 to 6 weeks I'd be able to make a determination. But like I said, we were, if you get a chance, go down and look at Morningstar. Man, it looks fantastic. But now we're back to where we're back up.
And that was a rebuild, right?
Yeah. Well, they had some drainage problems, and we found out that there was a pipe that had actually been buried down there. So we had some drainage issues. We got a new pipe put in. So, like I said, they're extremely happy, and I think it looked great. But then again, we're right back to where we were. That
Yeah.
you know, the blademen are busy, and all the trucks get busy, and so just letting you know that's something that we need to talk about in the near future as to how the commission would like to go, because like I said, I can make all the recommendations I want to, and I mean, this week's probably going to tell a lot to see how well we do with getting these roads straightened out again. So fortunately, I think it was a little more isolated around the Tampa area, because Royal was actually happy, and he was bragging. He only got 3 inches in the northwest, and so he didn't feel as bad. But in Hillsborough, they're going to have problems too. This ties area always has troubles. So, but anyway, like I said, could be some very tough decisions we have to make in the near future as to what to do. So, and I wish I could do it all and whatever else. So, anyway, I also found out this last week that, and I'm going to the meeting on Wednesday, that KDOT's bringing out their local bridge program back again. Talking with Jeff Slosher from Morris County, he's actually on the committee, and he said basically what it is, or has been in the past, is KDOT uses state funds and comes out and says, we'll pay you $140,000 per location to put a new structure in. And you can design it, build it however you want to. It's basically $140,000, and you do not have to have the concrete guardrails and stuff like that. You don't have to meet all the federal guidelines for that kind of stuff. So you can put up your own guardrail. You don't need, or your own bridge rail. You can put up your own guardrail if you want it. He said the other nice thing is if it's already on a closed road, they'll give you another $40,000. So I said, you name it, we got it. I mean, we can put it out there. We've got 2 or 3 locations that are closed right now. But the problem is we may get 1, maybe 2 at most. But I can throw all kinds of stuff out. I'll know more Wednesday when it comes out from the meeting.
Yeah.
But I think it's a fantastic way to get some more money out to work on bridges.
At least it's maybe an opportunity
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah, but same way again, you know, some of those areas, the stuff that we've done has only been temporary, just because every time we get substantial rain, it's just.
I mean, just, a good example of that is the one you just talked about, Vista.
Right.
That was a permanent structure.
Yeah.
Now there's a tube there.
Yeah.
So you get another 7-inch rain, is that tube gonna be there?
We hope. And obviously that was the big push, was we just wanted to make sure we were doing whatever we could to get it.
Right, to get them open. Yeah.
And the other thing I looked at too is, didn't realize it, but as you come out of 280th, you cross the railroad tracks right there, right to the north of there, the railroad has put, well, they had 1 and now they put 2 more, like 60-inch pipes going through the railroad line. Well, that is a tremendous amount of water sending it down our road with no ditch and into this concrete structure. I mean, it's pretty obvious there needs to be a lot of work done there. So when we get to the point of redoing that bridge or whatever else, we'll redo the ditches and all the drainage and stuff like that. But that's just like all the other places they got in the county that have to have.
That's a good point. Like when the railroad starts changing out those huge tubes, is there any contact with counties and they just don't do it?
That's what I thought to myself Friday when I was out there, and I've already made a call to try to find out, because I'd be interested, you know, did they come up with an engineering study to determine the flood area going through there? I don't know. And I don't know if the railroad will be able to tell me either, because they may have just said, well, there's water sitting there, we need to put some more tubes in. Don't know. But yeah, that's something to think, because obviously we gotta work in tandem. I've already talked about the ESCS and stuff like that we have to work in tandem too when they do a new waterway, whatever else. And he goes, yep, by all means, he said, we're gonna work with you. And they were a little upset that some of the stuff's been done in the past that wasn't taken care of too. So, but yeah, I totally in agreement because it's like, wow, that's a lot of water standing my way that, maybe that we have to account for. So, but anyway, we're hoping this new bridge program can help us out at least with one, if not more structures. We've also looked at a lot more of the railroad cars and alternative measures to do that. They're a very cost-effective way to.
And how are they working out?
As far as I know, we haven't had a problem other than the one we have up on 310th by Diamond up there. The problem is on Cottonwood River, and 2 10-foot tubes is not near enough to put in there. But they tore down a bridge in the past, and a bad bridge, whatever else. The problem is taking down a bridge and putting in pipes. Now it takes it off the National Bridge Inventory list. So if we go back with the bridge, we'll have to pay for it ourselves. So unfortunately, they did it to get a road open or whatever else if the bridge was that bad. And like I said, I knew nothing about it other than what they've told me since then. But you put those tubes across there, they're going to float almost every time with the cotton. As much drainage area as it has up there. But otherwise, they're only, to say they're inexpensive, they're only $250 a foot. And you take a 40-foot long culvert, that's $10,000. You can't hardly build a structure out there for that. We do it with all of our own forces, so we don't have to contract that out. Still comes down to the fact is we're doing it with our own forces and finding the time to do that. They also make what they call a half tube, which then they also put a steel top and bottom end on like a hub guards. So you got smaller structures, you actually build your hub guards in there too. So looking at that stuff and everything else. So this Thursday I'm going to Liberty Township to meet with them. Next Wednesday, reminder, there's that LRSP meeting at the city building. That's the local road safety program that they're gonna come out and see if they have, investigate if there's any intersections that may be bad or whatever else. So just I don't know if any or all of you want to go, let's however you want to work it out.
What is that
Next Wednesday, 14th. Yeah.
That's at Hillsborough?
No, here.
Oh, it's
City building here.
city building.
Yep. In the basement. So.
You might send us all the commissioners out a text
Okay.
or something on that, just as a reminder.
Yep, okay. We turned in our fiscal year 2021 off-system bridge to KDOT, and that's going to be Eagle right south of 230th. We got a bridge that's pretty bad shape. I guess Jesse says when you go out there and you jump on it, you can feel it move. And so based on the 13 that we have with a sufficiency rating below 30, which is what they consider replacement, that was the one that we chose because we thought we'd get the best benefit out of it. So got that turned in. So like I said, that's fiscal 2021, and that's an 80-20 split. So that whatever 20%. But like I said, all the other 13 under sufficiency rating of 13 as I've inspected. I think some we can get rid of. They're not needed. Right? They're stuff we can do to minimize that. There's a lot of repairs and stuff we can do them. It's just again a matter of getting to them to time work or whatever else. So, and then I don't know, Diane, if you had anything lined up afterwards, if you want to come down and go over those pictures and stuff.
I do.
Okay.
I do, but I also have something new I wanted to show you. You probably already know it, and this one's near and dear to my heart, and I was going to show it to you. This is on the new 330th, and I don't know how you probably are aware of that. And that's between Diamond and Eagle. And then there's other locations as well. And I'm not quite sure where this right here is, but this is also starting to come on the same road. It's down a little ways further.
I do know that we're going up there to.
See, now that one worries me there because the road's only 22 feet wide.
Mhm.
And so there's no way you can go to the center of the road. You're going to have to drive over that. And I don't know how. I was trying to figure out, there's supposed to be a 12-inch slurry cement base under there. According to that picture, of course, it's probably
It's
out.
right here.
That's 12 inches? The picture
Well,
looked to me like 12 inches.
I think the 12 inches probably go down here, but you've lost the piece when that water goes over there. It's very destructive. So I'm guessing that's what it was. I know we've had guys out looking at them, we've got all kinds of stuff going back in just for temporary for drop-offs, so.
What do you do with something like that? Put riprap in?
What we're doing right now is we're just gonna go in there and compact screenings in there just for drop-off. And that's simply because we have to do more permanent fixes down the road. Screenings allow us to go in there and you know, work with here. And my thought is, whether we go in there and put a concrete slope or whatever else, this is all gonna be covered by FEMA also. Because I mean, FEMA's to the point we keep paying for this and paying for this and paying for this. They're actually saying we can go back and fix it. And they're,
Now on that one, how do you pick up those culverts? Because those culverts have kind of like smashed down. How do you pick them babies back up? And
well,
I mean, I'm trying to figure out how you do that without bending over.
Whatever the problem may be is obviously you can see it's got dirt on top there. The reason the pipes fell is they're scoured underneath there, and then you get material and water goes up top and pushes them down. If the pipe has fallen and is bent, we probably just need to dig it out and put a new extension on there with support underneath it.
And did you get the pictures that I sent you this weekend?
No,
See, I might have sent them to you wrong. I got two numbers for you. One's
Mhm.
office and
I
one's.
didn't get them either.
Oh, okay. Okay, so see, I
Okay.
thought maybe you were gonna bring them up. I thought, because I sent them to you, so I
That's,
obviously
you
them
sent
to-
these to me?
Yeah,
Okay.
those, and I also sent the ones for Pawnee. Did you get those?
No.
Okay, so those right there with the flooding, and I know flooding is ugly, but this is the Davis residence. And there was a,
This is the 220th and,
well, I don't know the 220th. It's Pawnee Road.
yeah.
Is it
This is when you
220th?
called me, or you texted me about,
I
you
texted
didn't send
about
me
it.
any pictures.
Okay, I sent the pictures obviously to the wrong place.
Okay.
So obviously
Yeah,
you can't get
and
pictures.
I've looked at this, we can talk about this too,
Okay,
so,
all right. So that'll be fine.
okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I just, like I said, we've got that situation all over the place, so.
Yeah.
I was kind of
Well,
proud.
now, this one right here though is a little unique, but yeah, we'll talk about
Yeah,
it.
but like I
Okay.
said, the water came up pretty fast and then it went down pretty fast, so. But I think basically all the signs we got out in the morning, we were taking up in the afternoon, and so. The one at Tampa actually flowed their big power poles right out on the road, so they had to bring their digger truck in, and we could have got the road about 30 minutes earlier, but we had to wait for them to get their digger trucks, so.
I heard about that. I didn't see
Yeah.
it, but I heard about it.
Yeah, so, like I said, we're back to right where we were before, going back, and I'd love to say we could get caught up and get back on rebuilding roads and doing more work, but it's just, you know. Oh, everything north of 230 go to Ham Quarry.
You must have read my mind, because that's what I was just gonna say to you, because I noticed on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're gonna try to do that, and basically where that comes, we're saying that 290th is a break, I say break even. It's almost like that exact distance from Lincolnville to Florence as it is from there to Ham.
okay.
So that's what we're gonna look at now. The guys were a little reluctant because they said, what, getting bad material, and I said, if we get to that point, you let me know, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And they said, okay. So like I said, and everything north of there, obviously Mark got hammered pretty hard, so everything north of there. The only bad thing about that too is going north is they have to go through that signalized section around 5677, that was Lost Springs.
Yeah,
So they'll
but
be waiting a little bit. But
That's, yeah, I do that all the time, and it's terrible,
it
but
seems
not
like it's
that bad.
15, 20 minutes you have to wait even when it's not
I
long.
don't know that I've ever waited quite that long.
No, it just seems like it when you're sitting there, you know.
Yeah, 5
But,
minutes seems.
trust me,
yeah.
I'm in the industry and I complain about it too. It
Yeah.
doesn't do any good.
Yeah, yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's good, that's
yep,
very good,
yep,
because I was
so-
gonna bring that up.
Yep.
You're beat me to it.
Yeah, so, other than that, if you guys have anything, the only thing I had was the personnel stuff, so.
That's all I have for you.
Did you wanna come down later on?
Yeah, I would like
Okay.
to, yes,
Okay.
as soon as the meeting's over, yes.
Yeah.
If you're there that time.
Well, I was gonna head down there just when we're done, so.
Okay.
I'll stay there. Other than that, like I said, other than the personnel issues. so.
Okay. Yeah, that's the next item on the agenda, personnel.
And I guess, did you wanna have any public comments before we do that, or if they wanted to stay, whatever you wanna do, so. I'm okay.
Well, it kind of depends on your schedule.
I'm
You got
okay.
enough time?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Well, we could go ahead then, and since that's the last agenda item, and I take for granted that probably will involve an executive session.
Yes.
Okay. we'll go ahead and open up then for public comments. So, anyone here have any citizen inputs, comments?
Bryce, 90th,
Jonah?
90th west of 15. Is that on your list?
No.
It's a traffic wreck waiting. I mean, it's.
What, I mean,
Oh,
culvert washed
it's
out
just-
or?
No, it's just the whole road. I mean, it's one of them that are probably on the back burner list.
Trying to think. I've been over so many roads in the last several weeks, but,
15 to Mound Ridge.
okay.
Can I ask,
roads.
have you got anyone
It's
out
good.
mowing at all?
It's good going over to the Tabor Church, but it's
Yes.
not good going
You
that
do?
way.
Yeah.
Okay, because we've got up there on 330th. I mean, they're pretty tall, and it's kind of hard to see around the corners.
Well, and that's the other issue as we've talked about, you know, to say that they're mowing, they're mainly just knocking the stuff down. It's just
Right.
been so tall and so wet. We've actually had 2 mowers out and about
Okay.
running around. We've had summer help with weed eaters and stuff like that, trying to get to the guardrail because there's some areas you can't see the guardrail either, so.
Well, I know we're still having problems with people planting the ditches too, you know, in some places.
Yeah, it's.
They're planting right up to the road.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, like I said, we've had 2 guys on tractors and trying to get to it, so.
Are we sending out any correspondence yet to those that we've identified that are planting crops on county right-of-ways?
I don't have near enough time to try to.
Well, I understand, but I'm just wondering going forward.
Most of the stuff that is an issue is on the dirt roads.
Right.
And it won't really be too much of an issue until we start going in there and cutting the ditches and stuff like that, because the main thing is we gotta go in there and try to figure out drainage and stuff. We've got so many pipes that are buried, and it's like the one down here at Morningstar, you know, we didn't even know it was there. And now that we put that pipe in there, it's gonna make a huge difference. But, yeah, I totally understand, and, you know, whether it's a letter to them, or we just meet them on site, say, hey, this is what we're gonna do, you know, because we gotta somewhat find the center of the roadway and then figure out what the right of way is and stuff like that, so.
Because I know there's some frustration with some of the maintainers who have done a rebuild in the last year or 2, and then all of a sudden this year it's planted again.
Yeah, well, and a lot of them, the stuff they went back and redid with all the water coming out of the fields is just why I think,
Right.
and, you know, I talked to ASCS too, they've got terraces that were emptying out of the ditches, and they're like, I can't have that, you know, without having some sort of recourse to where I gotta put rock riprap or something like that to try to control the erosion, because it just fills up
Yeah,
our ditches.
I got a call on one of those that I forwarded to you the other day.
Yeah,
And we've got one on Diamond like that that's pretty big, and it's washed the road clear off into the neighbors.
yeah, yep.
And I called, what is it?
Yes.
NRCS maybe?
Yeah, I think that's what it was, and they said that they would come and look at it. He knew that the waterway had been made that way, and he thought that the culvert, which the culvert runs,
It's
no,
this,
it runs with the road. Well,
Where-
it's not
where's-
gonna
where's
cover
this
that
at?
up. It's north of
330.
330th on Diamond. And it's
I-
just, they made it where it just dumped right out on the road.
What the deal is there, I've talked with Matt, and I've talked with Unruh both about it. The problem is that water comes down, and the middle point of the waterway comes right down over top of that field entrance.
Right.
So it never really gets into the ditch, and it comes right on across the road, and.
Yeah, and there's no culvert across the road. It's, you
Well,
know,
there,
it's one-
and there is a culvert across the road about 200 feet farther to the south. The problem is, most of that water doesn't get there.
Right.
It goes right across the road. We've had the discussions about moving the entrance, the field entrance going in there, and dealing with the landowner on that. But once we got rid of that, or moved that entrance pipe there, that will solve a lot of the problems and make sure that the ditch drains to the south.
Because it's
But-
just really, it's washed everything off
Oh,
of
yeah,
that
it
road.
does every time it
Nothing.
rains, because like I said, it's at the bottom of the terrace. Yeah, we've talked about it numerous times.
Okay.
And so Bryce,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you said that you were too busy really to go ahead on the dirt roads and send out the notifications to the farmers. And I'm gonna or the property owners. I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit on that, and I'm not saying I don't know that you're too busy. But I really think that we did put the resolution in place. And we need to get those letters sent out because they need to be notified that they cannot stack their hay bales there, and they cannot plant to the road. And so therefore, when the road grader is on the road right now, quite frankly, they're handicapped because they can't maintain the road properly. So even if they wanted to, they can't. Because I know there's several roads that we personally travel on with stock trailers and semis, and the road goes like this and it goes like this because now it's over here in the next man's field because these hay bales are there. I mean, this is ridiculous. And that man, those people need to be on alert that we're not putting up with it so they can start moving the hay bale, and the next time the road grader comes, maybe he can make that road where it belongs.
Yeah. Now, it brings up the issue that if there are hay bales or whatever else stored on property, on
our
right of way, how do you want to proceed? Do you want to say that you're given X amount of time to get them off the right
I
of way?
think we have that in place in our
Is there?
resolution. We have a
Okay.
resolution that spells all that out.
Okay, I'll check that out
Yes,
then. But
yeah.
yeah, I understand.
Am I right?
Yeah, it's not, it's not like we're giving them 3 months to move them
Sure.
when they start feeding the cows this winter.
Yeah.
Just put the fence around the bales and just
Yeah.
let it come out. Yeah.
That's been done before.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has anybody heard from Matt that they're not doing that no more, directing the waterways right to our ditches? I mean, are
Matt,
they?
I did talk to Matt up on 220th and Diamond. The terrace, because we noticed they were putting the terraces in, and I went and asked him, hey, what are you doing? He goes, all the water is going away from the ditch. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact is where they can get rid of the water, but he said the same thing. We do not want to dump water into the ditch because it creates erosion. And like I said, talking with Matt numerous times, he's in the same thing as me, as we don't want to, several waterways end up right on our county roads with no pipes or whatever else. And he actually was quite upset when he found that out because it had been done before he got
I
there.
mean, there's been, some of the practices did it that way.
Yeah. But like I said,
Dumped it right there.
he was very upset when we brought up that one, and he asked some questions, and the only thing he heard was, it wasn't my fault. And he goes, I don't care whose fault it was, it's just the wrong thing to do. So, yeah, we're definitely aware of that, because like I said, you can't force all that water onto me and then have me not do it. Yeah, I mean, I can take care of it, but I mean, we've got to work together to figure out what that is, so. But, yeah.
Yeah, well, I really don't want to take too much of your time up. Now, some of this stuff we could probably talk about when you come over to my place to tell me where I need to move the round bales and where I'm farming too close to the road and stuff. Okay, you were saying something about you were gonna talk with Liberty Township, this week. I'm not sure, but I would imagine one of the things you're probably gonna talk about is that road west of what I call the Hillsborough Road on 130th. And there is several other roads like that are in really bad shape, but they either aren't hardly ever used anymore, or it'd be real easy to go around, go around I suppose one of the questions I have, some of the roads like that are in real bad shape and that are gonna be real hard to fix well enough to where when we have the next 6 or 7 inch rain, they're gonna be the same way. What do you plan on doing with some of them roads? It's either gonna take a tremendous amount of work, either that or you're just gonna fix them and they'll be okay till the next 6 inch rain, or we just gotta say, hey.
Well, first of all, I don't want any more 6 inch rains.
I don't either, but we can't control that.
Second of all, honestly, if you get that kind of intensity, there's nothing that you're gonna put out there that is gonna control that.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Other than like the state highways, and I mean, when the reservoir was releasing water, they had water on a state highway. That's unheard of. Our structures are not designed and or built to cover that. Now, what I can do is I can go in there and I can put whatever kind of structure that I can determine would go in there will handle probably 90% of the rain that comes through there.
Yeah.
So I can come up with that, like I said, based on the railroad cars or whatever else we can put out there. Some of them may not even need that. They just need the dishes cleaned, and which helps immensely. The culvert, the roadway, the ditches, the trees, they all come into play. How many places do we have trees right up next to the road? It's the worst place to have them because they collect silt and everything else there. Now, as far as closing the road, that's going to be a decision if we get to that point that's going to have to be made to the commission to close that road, because then you get the official closure and say that if you go down there, you can't go down there. Now you've got to go the 3 miles around to get to the same point. So, excuse me. So,
But some of the places, true, it would be 3 miles. Some places, well, it's 1 mile. I mean, I kind of agree with what you're saying. There's probably a few of them we just may need to shut. The one I'm thinking of in particular, and I don't really want that road shut because I farm next to it. But the roads down here, the fields up here, I don't know what you do.
how many of those do you want me to tell you off the top of my head?
There isn't that many, but there is a few.
There's a lot more than what you know.
Okay.
And it's exact same thing as, how much time and effort do I go back to try to reclaim this road?
That's what I'm saying. It's one of them deals, I don't know.
And my issue comes down to the fact is I need to try to put my resources to I get the biggest bang for the buck.
That's what I'm trying to say.
The other issue is a lot of those roads are still closed. We've had guys going, can you at least blade it up to me to get into my field? Not a problem. One of the other options is if you close the road, can you move the field entrance clear up to the other, or closer to the other road or whatever else? There's so many things that come into play there. And it comes down to my resources, whether it's personnel or whether it's budget. Well, I mean, anything's possible.
Well, I know, within reason.
I mean, I could go out and I could, if I had the budget for it, I could hire a contractor to go in and do that, buy right away and everything else. There's so many things that come into play there. So then it comes down to field access, and I'll tell that to anybody. I mean, there's only so much I can do with what I have and with people and this silly rain. I mean, everybody loves rain, but just a nice gentle shower would be just fine with everybody. So, I know.
That's not the normal for Kansas.
I know. So
Feast or famine. Feast or famine.
But sometime if you want to get together and talk sometime, I'd be more than happy to.
Okay.
See
if you want to, come on down sometime, whatever else we can sit down.
Down to
down to my office.
Okay.
So I already have one appointment, so you can be after that. So
we'll figure it out sometime.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, other citizen input, comments, concerns?
So if there is no other citizens, well, I'll take this time, I want to ask Brad a question or two. Where do we stand with MCC EDC getting those records? I mean, here we are going into month 8 after they shut down, and they still don't want to turn over the records to
There's
us.
been no response, so I mean, the only option we have left is the obvious,
And we're going to pursue the obvious, right?
if that's what you wish.
I mean, how long do we let people get away with stuff
Yeah,
like
I
this?
mean,
It's really in your face.
It's one of those things you hope that you'll just at some point get, but we have not.
Yeah, I personally, if they haven't been in giving it to us now, I wouldn't hold my breath on anything else.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I mean, it's been long enough that there's been ample opportunity, I suspect.
Yeah, and it's such a simple thing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So I personally, I say do it. We cannot be treated like this. I mean, we cannot be, we're entitled to those. Am I right? Yeah. And I think waiting 8 months, we've been more than patient and more than gracious. I just think we need to do what we have to do again.
Is that the general consensus of all?
It was the last time you asked. But,
Okay. Yeah, because I have not filed. an action that we can
What
certainly.
parts is not filed?
Well, she hasn't turned over any of the payroll records.
Is it payroll?
Right, now she has, I got everything Tina has. Everything she gave to Tina, she gave to me. And it was kind of a joke, because basically what she did was she sent me pages and pages of, you know when you do your taxes at the end of the year, you get the IRS book, how to do this, instructions, and I mean, it's like 30 pages. I got all that, okay? I did get the FICA filings, the taxes that they paid, I did get the state taxes that they paid, but I'm asking for the wages that are paid, the actual payroll. Because all throughout the year, as I was going to those meetings and just paying attention and getting whatever documents they would provide and so on, I've just been kind of to tracking that and so on. And for example, on mileage, I'll just throw that out for mileage. Okay, so they had a sheet of paper that said mileage, 450 miles, $450. Didn't say where, how many miles, da-da-da, 450 miles, $450, and it was paid. So you can't balance out the books and bring closure with it, and the payroll changed every month. It wasn't consistent. So to say that, okay, payroll was consistent, any prudent person could just figure that out, but it changed every month, and I wanted to know why. I mean, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it is starting to make me wonder, what is the big secret? And so, and like I said, Brad has said multiple times that we are entitled to those records. This was a volunteer group. There's just no reason to allow this to continue.
Do we even have a contact?
Yes, we do. Hannah Bourbon.
Is that who correspondence came through prior?
That's who has the records, yes.
She said we provided the stuff earlier, didn't she?
Well, I mean, she was the one who brought in the records as far as what payroll taxes were paid. I believe the person that was preparing the payroll was not Hannah. It was someone else. Was their secretary. So,
But their secretary wrote out her own check,
I believe so.
payroll.
Yes.
Well, that's special, okay, so,
It's supposed to be.
Well,
yeah.
but it's board approval. I
Yeah,
mean, the board has to
board
approve
approved.
it. So she would submit it and the board would pay it.
so there are still records, though, whoever has them, but I know that,
I was told that when I asked for that they didn't have those.
why? I mean,
I
would
don't know. I didn't,
that would have
they
been my
didn't give
next
me
question.
that, so.
I think when you deal with taxpayer money, I think you have to kind of keep those records for a little while. Just even when you
So we
pay
really don't
taxes.
even know for sure if an individual ended up with those records and who that individual is.
Well, when we asked Clint the last time, he said Hannah had them.
Okay.
I mean, that was verbal, but that's what he said. And she had all that. Now, maybe he was wrong, but that's what he said. And I would think if she paid those, I'm just thinking out of the box, since I do bookkeeping, I certainly would not submit anything to IRS or the state for taxes if I didn't have those payroll documents in front of me. And the same with W-2s, I wouldn't make up a W-2 form unless I had all those payroll figures in front of me. So, that's a question I had for you. If we could pursue that, I would appreciate it, because I'm not gonna let it drop. And then I have one final question, and that is just, it's just a general question, and that is, when we have people, and this was brought to me by several constituents, when we have people who submit for records under CORA and so on and so forth, there are fees sometimes imposed. Is this something that we should maybe have posted or set forth, or do they just change at the whim? How do we do that? Because
No,
some of
that's
the-
set by policy, and I think that's been around for some time in terms of what those standardized costs are.
And where do we get that policy? Because I've not been able to, I don't know where that policy is. I wouldn't know where to go to get that policy. I know it was brought to my attention by some people who were trying to get some information. I'm thinking, and I'm just saying, not verbatim, but what I was told, that, for example, there's some departments that they go to and they ask to go view records, and they're on a 15-minute limit. And after that point in time, then I think you have to pay or something like that, or whatever. I mean, I've never heard of anything like that.
It's not completely unusual. The repository is the enemy. And so those records have got to be maintained. For example, if you have to go to court at some point and show that those are the official records of a particular governmental entity, that you have had exclusive control of those. You can let someone sit and look at them in your presence if they prefer to do that, as opposed to making copies or getting them in some other form. But that's typically supervised by personnel. I mean, they're at least aware of and either sitting right there, depends on what it is, but in the same general area where those are being looked at. At some point, if what they're doing is sitting and observing that, or they can't leave because they're doing that, then it starts to become expensive because they're not allowed to do anything else while they're having those observed or examined.
And are you saying, did I hear you say that each department could set their own
Generally, I expect it to be
consistent?
entity-wide, I guess I'll say it that way, whether it's municipality or it's a state setting or it's a county.
And so where would we go to see what those figures are? Because I know some people have put in, I'm told some people have put in some requests and they've gotten huge bills for copying, research, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I just think it's only fair that they know up front what they're gonna encounter. Where would we go to get that policy?
Well, we do have, the different departments are doing it differently right
Oh,
now.
okay.
And so we have talked at department head meeting recently about trying to get those standardized. And so we did do that at our last department head meeting, kind of went through and, because in, like, Register of Deeds office, their copies are a certain amount. In our office, it's a certain amount. And then the research fees are slightly different. We don't have to have a standardized fee. According to the Attorney General's office, when I've spoken to them, between each office, because each office is kind of different, but we felt as department heads that it would be helpful to the public if we did have that standardized. So we have been working on trying to get that together. And then when we have kind of the suggested information compiled, I can bring it to the board. But we don't have to post it under open records, but I think it would be helpful if everyone was doing it the same, and if we do post it, because I think that's a good thing to do for transparency. But as of right now, we don't have it,
But
and it's not consistent
Some of the
between.
fees, such as register of deeds, they're set statewide.
Some are statutory, yeah,
Right.
but in terms of what we can internally control, it's my preference too, to have those be standardized so that you know what you're doing. By definition, different departments can take, more or less time to find something, depends on what minutia they maintain, register of deeds versus treasurer versus whomever. But as to the extent that we can standardize them, it's nice to have that done, and then establish it in some kind of a policy setting so that it's available. So
Yes.
it comes in with the question you just asked.
Yes, I appreciate that, because I've been, getting a lot of questions from people, and I can't answer because I, don't know, because I'm faced with the same thing. Well, I was, when I would go to different departments and get information and stuff, but, since the charges and stuff come in, I just stopped doing that. But, because you don't know. Oh, you ask for some request and all of a sudden, when, $25 or whatever it would be, some higher, it's like you're stunned. Yeah, so I just think it's, like Tina said, it's transparent, and it's fair, needs to be fair and upfront.
Brad, is there something in the rules says that we should have positive ID before somebody can request it?
We can request identification.
I think we probably need to, so that.
You could put that in the policy as well.
Positive ID, so that we can
Yep.
possibly make sure that the person requested is the person. I mean, I don't know why anybody would do anything different, but I think this needs to be there.
So for that, how would you do that over email? If somebody's requesting information by email, how do you get positive ID?
I had one recently where the individual submitted a copy of his driver's license through the email.
That would be good, either that,
So-
somehow positive ID of some type, yeah.
And some
suppose,
places
but that has
don't
to be
provide,
relied on.
some places don't provide them by email just because of that, because they want to confirm the identity of the person, which is allowed under the statute. And so some places just say, we'll prepare it, it'll be available to you upon proof of identification.
So people from other places can't request information from somewhere.
Well,
So
they
if I wanted-
can.
So if I wanted something from Colorado, I couldn't request it because I can't go out there, they're not gonna send it by email.
Unless you can submit your ID some other way, I don't
Right, but if
know.
they don't do it by email. It's just when you go open records and then you start getting roadblocks every time you go in, it's frustrating.
The idea is to try to provide as much information as we can and be transparent.
I don't see why you couldn't take,
Yeah.
a person couldn't send their photo, a copy of their photo ID somehow to the person and.
Like
do it that
fax
way.
it
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
We have not necessarily required that on every open record request, Randy, because of that, because of his point that we want to make it as easy as we can for people to request and get those records, but it is allowed under the law, for sure. And I don't know about the email question.
I mean, it just, to me, it's one of them deals that if I want to go question who's getting the copy of it, well, where'd you get this from? Well, at least I got it from county at such and such a date, and we know where it comes from.
So then when you get that information, how do you keep that private then? Because you're getting people's private information then I'm just asking, then that adds more of a burden to the,
That wouldn't be private. It's public information, so that'd be public.
no, I'm talking about depending on what kind of ID and stuff that they send in, you know, have their address on it and different things like that. Wouldn't that kind of be I'm just asking, would that then be something they would be responsible then to protect?
We're fiduciary of that information at that point, yeah. There's always yes, no, and maybe to a lot of these things. The email, for example, there's always a tug and pull with all of this. The intent is to be as open with these records as you can, and statutorily, these, by definition, under the statute, are what should be open. Okay, well then, how does somebody get them? It's a good question. If they're calling from Montana, and it happens, we get those periodically, we'll do it by snail mail if we have to. They'll get them. It's
Right.
it just takes longer.
But then there's also the burden on them, or cost burden on them.
Yep.
Whereas it could just be digital and not.
Yep, that's exactly right. If they're at a distance, if there's some things that we just haven't solved, and I don't know how to do that, and there's always a little bit of fear and trepidation with anything that goes out that way, because everything anymore, you look at Capital One, is pierceable, and your records come to us in terms of your identification. Well, if you've got sensitive identifying information on that, we're duty bound to try to preserve that as a policy matter as privately as we can.
And I've had mail in the past stolen out of my mailbox.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, so
There's just nothing foolproof anymore.
So what happens if, we require some type of ID like that, and our system would get compromised? What's our liability?
KCAM, our insurance carrier there. You'll notice now that there's a rider on every one of those policies that I really read now in every public entity setting for that kind of breach of privacy that can happen. It's happened around us in the last year a lot to some of the county offices, Harvey County being one of them. It cost them a fortune. And not for liability reasons, but they had all these records. It's kind of a held hostage kind of a malware.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had to reproduce all of this. They were down literally in a lot of ways in terms of reproducing that for about 6 months. One of the other counties decided it was cheaper to pay it, the ransom, get the records back.
Wow. So on that line, what would it cost to get a backup so that you could just trash the computer and just back it up from a server?
I think we have one now.
I don't know how much of that
Yeah, you wanna
security
get into-
stuff too that we should really talk
Yeah.
about in the open.
Well, I'm just saying if you had a server to back it up on and somebody ransomed the computer, because that's what you do privately. That way I just take the computer and trash it, get a new one, and just pull it off the server. And I don't have to pay that ransom.
Tangent drive.
Yeah.
Just in a generic sense, most every entity does anymore.
I didn't know if we did or not, how much it would cost, because you got the backups they advertise online and stuff like that. So
Okay.
going back to your question with the fees, if you said people are having fees collected. There's no resolutions. Where does that money go?
Where does the money go? That is, yes, that's
That's
exactly,
correct.
where does, when people pay, I know when I come in, and I haven't in a long time, but I was there for a while coming and getting hard copies before they started emailing things to me, and I had to pay. where does that money go? I don't see it being deposited myself, but that's, you know.
That, you'll see that in the daily receipts that are coming into each department. So there's a reimbursement line item where most of those things are you can see them on your budget reports, the budget activity reports that you get every month on the income. When you see reimbursements, that's where those are deposited on the reimbursement lines for each department.
I'll have to go back and look because I never noticed there was a lot of that stuff coming in.
Well, it's
So-
there, and it's not, you don't see it listed out on what everything is, you know, as far as, because we don't get down to that kind of detail on those reports, but those line items are where they're deposited.
If it was to go in, let's say register of deeds and ask, I think they'd have a file. I'm looking
Sure.
at different departments.
Yep.
All over and stuff, so I
Yep.
know register of deeds should have.
They do, and we have a book where we write them down, and we also have the receipts that we issue, and so most, all the departments I have something similar to that. So-
Those requests are an open record too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Okay, any other citizens concerns? Anything else? Okay, if not, we're gonna move on to Road and Bridge on the agenda under personnel.
Is this
Bryce?
personnel in your office?
Yeah. The executive session to discuss.
Oh, that's not you. Oh, okay. Oh, you were gonna make the motion?
No.
Make sure you get the KSA part right.
Yes.
Good point.
So this for personnel matters,
Yes.
how long do you need?
20, 30 minutes maybe, I don't know.
Well, should we just go to 11:30 at this point?
Sounds good.
Okay, and that's to, the discussion is to involve a personnel matter?
Yes.
Is this to discuss job duties of a
Job
particular
duties.
individual or?
Is that something that goes into executive session when you're talking about job description or something like that, or just duties in general?
Not in general. If you're discussing it as it specifically applies to personnel, a individual employee of the county, then we can go in.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'll move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss item number 1 for personnel matters, non-elected personnel, and we're going to discuss for the personnel description of a employee pursuant KSA 75-4319B with the commission and Brad until 11:30, and then we will resume back into open session.
And you want Bryce also?
Bryce, yeah,
Okay.
Brad and Bryce. Yeah.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody else out there? Okay, out of executive session, no action taken, and I will move the recess in executive session in order to discuss, number 1, item personal matters of non-elected personnel, in order to discuss the job description of a specific employee with the commission, Brad and Bryce, until 11:46. We'll make it 15 minutes, and then we will resume back into open session.
Second.
Okay, moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, sir.
You're fine.
I figured I was going to do stand up.
Anybody else out there? Okay, out of executive session, no action taken. That is final agenda item for the morning. So,
Can I ask a couple more questions on the open records, what we thought of sitting out there, in response to what Brandon said?
well, that would be getting back into citizen concerns. We were in that.
Is there a problem with that?
If Randy and Diane are okay with it, I'll allow it, but try to get them taken care of whenever.
Yeah, it's
we can.
just something we thought of, just based off what he said. So, you're talking about like the minutes being something for posterity, basically for court, if you need to go into court, minutes of meetings?
Well, or anything, any open record,
Right.
yeah.
So if the minutes are really general, is that something that shouldn't be? Like, you know, in the past, the reason I ask is in the past, it said like, you know, like year out said, as part of the P&Z, you know, and then like Savage said, Commissioner Candidate Dalkey said, I mean, that's in the minutes over there. But in the minutes here recently, it's just been a comments were made, not what the comments were or how much, so should that be changed to be more to what somebody said?
Not according to what are required, whether you use Roberts or Hoyle or any of the other systems that are out there.
Okay.
Definitive actions, motion, second, and any action that's binding in nature, spends the tax dollars, whatever, those are to be expressed. Most of the rest of that subjective intent kinds of things, what you get into immediately is a slippery slope. How much do you then write down, short of taking it word for word and having, like in a court system, a transcript?
Right.
So the answer I always give in every one of those seminars is you're required, the substantive action must be listed. Anything beyond that, the technical answer is no, don't do it. And so actually minutes in most cases, even for a long meeting, usually can be reduced down to 1 or 2 pages because what they, like when planning and zoning, we're taking all of that comment.
Right.
You might list who was there because you have that and that they commented, but the gist and general nature of what they said, how do you accurately do that? Because it's one person saying, well, I heard him say this. And that may or may not be what they meant to or intended to.
And right now, we have the electronic stuff.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because, yeah, if you take it into court and it just says, you know, comments were
Yeah.
made, then.
Yeah, the only time that those, if you're just looking at minutes, the only time that I've had those utilized was that it was brought up, that it was discussed, and certain action was formally taken. As to all of the considerations as to why, what the general positions of each of the commissioners or council members in a given setting were, that's generally
Okay,
not.
so what the board says is not, doesn't need to be kept. Okay, I
No.
just know that in the past, it's just easier to go back, you know, because we're talking about moving forward or the past or something. You need to kind of know what the past is in order to not
Yeah.
repeat it.
That's the advantage of the electronic preservation of everything these
Right.
days. Because technically the minutes are supposed, they are the official acts of the elected board. And that's just going to be motion, second, and what the vote was.
Okay.
Anything beyond that is technically, yeah, it can be recorded, but it becomes superfluous.
Okay. And then the motion itself is recorded accurately in the minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Then the fees that you're talking about, you know, being able to set. So like what we have on the clerks now is the lowest staff rate. Is that considered a reasonable fee? Because we don't know what that is. You know, and I know that P&Z is charging $12.36 an hour. Well, their lowest staff rate is 12 because you hired that temporary individual over there for 12. So, I mean, it's 36 cents, but still, it's lowest staff rate. We don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So shouldn't it be a set number?
Again, it doesn't have to be, which is what we were discussing earlier, but
Okay.
it's just nice to have something that's uniform.
Well, okay, right, I'm just talking about, well, yeah, but each department can have it, so each department has their fee schedule and says, we're gonna charge this much, we're gonna charge this much, instead of just a general
Right,
lowest staff.
which is what we've been talking about, trying to get one that it makes sense for all departments, which not all departments have the same kind of
Right.
information, so it's a little bit tricky.
Okay. And then something else, because we requested something with your office, it came back, one of them was that it was denied because it was evidentiary. If it's evidentiary, does there not have to be a court case specific or court order saying that piece of that document is not releasable?
I'm not sure I can track that. Evidentiary, if it's related to that it's attorney-client privileged communication and that they.
Well, this was based on, I think, Pat Hughes's bill that he had submitted in March or April. And it came back that you cited the statute that it was not releasable because it was under evidence. But there was no court case or court order to say that it was. So is that something that can be used? Or does there have to be a court order saying I can't have that document? I mean, it might be attorney-client privilege, but the statute that was the reason was given, the statute was
Public
for
comment.
evidence.
This is public comment. We're not into questioning anybody.
Well, and specific information about that, you know, I don't know how many record requests I have done since then, so I can't be specific on that
Right,
at
no,
this
I'm
point.
not questioning Tina. I'm
Yeah,
asking
no,
that
but-
if there has to be a court order to state that evidence is the reason I can't get that document.
I don't ever state that in a rejection of a record request without something else
All right,
with
well,
it.
we can talk, because
Yeah.
I can bring you your response, so.
There would have been more than one thing together with that, so.
All right, but yeah, but it's just one that we've gotten as far as evidence is why we're not giving you the document.
Okay,
But, all right, well, thank you for that, I appreciate it.
okay, that was into the agenda, so I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.